Good afternoon and welcome to our regular council meeting for February 21st, 2023. At this time, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional territories and the oral practices of the Blackfoot Nation, which include the Siksika, the Kainai, and the Piikani. We also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. We're making this acknowledgement to demonstrate our continuing efforts to work together as we strive for reconciliation through increased and collective learning. Moved by Councillor Nesbitt that the agenda be adopted. Any additions or deletions? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Jeska that the minutes from the regular council meeting held February 6, 2023 be approved. Any errors or omissions? To the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Idris that the January 2023 RCMP report be accepted as information. Sergeant Searle, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you, Mayor and Council. In January of 2023, we responded to 434 calls for service within the City of Brooks. We lodged a total of 29 prisoners, and there were 147 municipal criminal record checks completed. And a total of 93 violation tickets were issued within the city. Some significant events. On January 16th, we responded to a complaint of a break and enter and an assault at a residence. The homeowner reported she was woken up and assaulted by a male who was known to her. A 55-year-old male was charged with break and enter, assault, and uttering threats. On January 17th, we received a few reports of a vehicle driving erratically with a woman clinging to the hood of the vehicle. We attended and learned that the female had attempted to stop someone from stealing her car. The male who tried to steal the car refused to stop the vehicle, and she eventually fell off. She had some minor injuries. We actually, Lethbridge Police recovered the vehicle in the city of Lethbridge, and that investigation is still ongoing. On the 19th, we responded to a complaint of adult male. He was inappropriately touching himself at the JBS Canada Centre in front of some youth. The youth actually promptly reported it to staff. The male was escorted off the property. We ended up locating him, a 68-year-old male. He's been charged with committing an indecent act. He's also been placed on conditions not to attend the JBS facility or any other place that children may be present. On January 29th, we were on patrol at the downtown 7-Eleven and saw a vehicle that was running with the occupants asleep inside. Members attempted to rouse the occupants and while doing that observed a firearm next to the driver. The occupants were detained, and following the investigation, the driver was arrested and charged with unauthorized possession of a firearm and carrying a concealed weapon. Currently, we have no staffing issues. And I guess the only thing to note with stats, like there was a large increase in theft under $5,000. Most of that was shoplifting, and most of it was by one individual. We did arrest him on one of the first incidents of shoplifting and held him for a hearing. He was released, committed a bunch more. We put some warrants out for his arrest, tried to find him while he committed more, and eventually we found him, charged him, got all his warrants dealt with, and I'm happy to report that he hasn't done it since. We're definitely keeping an eye on him and monitoring his conditions while he's off. And I know Councillor Jeska, you brought up the catalytic converters last month. At the time, I think we only had one. In January, we had 6 reported. We're also working on that. We have a project going right now on that. So hopefully we don't get any more, but it's something that we're watching. So
I think it was good until Councillor Jeska brought it up there. Yeah, I know.
But that's my report, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Councillor Woodrup.
Thank you. My question is about information sharing with the school districts. So when an incident like the one that happened at the JBS, when something like that occurs that is potentially a threat to children, obviously, in the community, Is that information shared with the school district?
Sure, so,
So sometimes we hear about it and sometimes we don't.
yeah, so we have to balance people's right to privacy with the concern for public safety. So there have been lots of times where we've shared information to the school because we've identified that there was a concern for safety of the children. And I'm not sure if it happened in this case, but absolutely, like, we talk to the schools quite a bit, and anyone else that we need to talk to.
Yeah, because, you know, and I guess my question is, like, at what, is it by a case-by-case basis, or is there a certain, like, requirements that have to be met before you?
It's absolutely case by
information?
case. So like I said, if there was an established concern for the safety of the public, then we would definitely notify the people that need to be notified.
So this would not be, so this is not an example of,
I'm not sure if in this case the school was notified or not, but I'd have to look into the file further.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, no. Thank you for your time this afternoon, Sergeant
Great.
Cyril.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Goodenough that the following items of correspondence be received as information: updates on council conferences and workshops, council committee reports, council payable listing, and council committee notes, February 14th, 2023. Our council committee reports will start to my left, Councillor Woodruff.
Thank you. All right. So first, I have the Newell Housing Foundation. So currently, the board is applying for a grant to fund a pilot position that would be a liaison between the residents of our seniors housing and administration. This grant would cover the cost of a full year of wages, $5,000 in supplies, and mileage for driving between here and Bazzano once a week. The person would spend 3 days at the lodge, 1 day at Playfair, and 1 day at the villas every week. And yeah, this is a, like, if we get the grant, it will be fully costed. So this would be a great opportunity for us to see if this would be a worthwhile investment. It's like a new position. And finding that seniors have more needs now than in decades past, more complex needs, and they like the interaction with the administration, right? Like asking questions, looking for somebody to help them with everyday things, and this liaison position might be really valuable. So we're going to give it a shot, and hopefully that grant comes through. The Bazzano project has once again been strongly advocated for by the board, and unfortunately, once again, just kind of effectively dropped at this time. Provincial government and EHS have not given us concrete direction or feedback, so at this point we are have decided to begin the process of pursuing a needs assessment for seniors housing in Bazzano, while also advocating where we can for access to quality and accessible healthcare in Bazzano through seeing what's going on with the Bazzano Hospital. That's what's going on there. Really good news, we're down to 7 vacancies now at the Newbrook Lodge, which is incredible. We were seeing numbers in the high 20s all year. I think we even got up to 30 at one point. So this is huge, this is really encouraging for us. That's due to a variety of reasons. Obviously, we can't always tell why a big shift like that happens, but we believe it's about coming out of COVID. People are more willing to be moving into communal housing now, because it was obviously quite complicated before. Let's see what, the lots of effort put into advertising, tours of the facility, having trial stays where people stay for a few days, And those are still lined up, and there's actually a waiting list right now, which the board hasn't seen a waiting list in years, so. Yeah, really positive. So positive, in fact, that BAPS pilot program that I mentioned last time is put on hold because now there aren't any large suites available for this awesome pilot program, but it's a good problem to have. But if you were wondering about what's going on there, that's not going forward for the moment. And I guess the last thing is I'm planning on attending the 2023 ASHA convention, which is the Alberta Seniors and Community Housing Association. So housing is obviously top priority, top concern for us here, and I'm hoping to network with lots of great people and learn a lot and bring that back to the board. So yeah, that's all I have for Newell Housing, if I missed anything. Yeah.
Just, I want to point out a couple things with Bizano. I think maybe one thing Bizano might have going for them, I mean, depending on our government here, but it is on the Trans-Canada, and that's what they're pushing for, because it becomes a major sort of stop for emergencies, you know, so maybe that might help Bizano in their lobby, you know, on that. And with Newbrook Lodge, like 20, to add 20 people, that's a lot of money to the revenue there, because you're losing almost, you know, $1,200 to $1,500 a month, depending on income. So it adds a lot of revenue to the Newbrook Lodge. So that's nice to see. But they put some, I think I agree with you. I think the pandemic had something to do with nobody wanted to live in that environment during the pandemic. And secondly, they did work hard, you know, with the tours and their marketing and things like that to get those spots full. So that's nice to see. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I could add to it, you know, there's so much pressure on our CAO and our, like, the employees of the board, and like, how are we going to compensate for all this COVID funding that we've been right used to having, and then not seeing any improvement in terms of, like, we have so many vacancies, and now it's shifted big time, and that's a huge relief for the financial future of the association. So yeah. Okay, FCSS. For the funding process next year, the board's decided that instead of having current funded partners present at meetings throughout the year, which they do, so at the beginning of meetings we'll have like 1 or 2 funded partners come and present and explain their programs and how they use their funding. So we're going to go back to having 1 day of funding presentations, which I was not there when the board did that. This was a pre-COVID thing. But we're going to do that in October 14th at the Heritage. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I encourage any organizations that are involved in any preventionary social services to come forward and put forward a funding application for the next funding year. And our current funded partners' annual reports have been submitted. They were submitted on January 31st, and that report will be coming up. Watch for that one. Alberta 211 continues, like, FCSS is continuing to work with Alberta 211 to act as a local organization to supply information, act as a conduit, and help organizations get set up with the program. The funding has been given to Canadian Mental Health Associations to implement the system, and 211 will be using livebrooksnewell.com as a source of information. The value of 211 is in the after hours and weekend support needs, which is really needed. Obviously, we're seeing so many mental health needs grow in all of our communities, and this is a really good opportunity, like a support that people can access outside of regular business hours. And yeah, so FCSS is continuing to reach out directly to organizations to get them listed in the 211 system. Pardon me. The Canada Summer Jobs Youth Volunteer Program has been, this has been an ongoing program. We're going to be beginning to advertise mid-March for coordinator. Applications for the 2023 Canada Summer Jobs application have been submitted. The Early Childhood Development Coalition, like the ECD, is continuing with funding help from FCSS. They were one of the major recipients of the funding this year. It is a good forum for service providers to discuss challenges associated with responding to COVID and to share ideas about best practices to continue to operate safely. The Circle of Ideas for ECD Service Providers is happening on March 2nd. That's created to provide early childhood development, professional development opportunities for those organizations and employees of those organizations. Big news in terms of staffing and new hires. Victoria Mulbyer, and I apologize, Victoria, if I've said your name wrong. She is our current project coordinator, and she was interviewed by the Personnel Committee on February 13th, and her employment contract has been signed with a start date of July 1st, 2023 for the Executive Director role. So our current Executive Director, Lynn Pye Matheson, will be leaving and retiring in the summer. There will be a little bit of overlap between July 3rd and September 2nd with Lynn. Training will occur over those next few months. And in terms of Victoria's current position as the project coordinator, the plan is to hire in May and do some training with the new project coordinator in June. And there will be some overlap there. Victoria's been in this project coordinator position since June, so it's positive. She's been able to be in that position for a while, and we'll be able to train her replacement. The 2023 Honoring a Community Dinner will happen this year. It hasn't happened for the last couple of years because of COVID. That's planning on going forward on June 2nd. There are a variety of committee members from the community from Brooks Annual Region. They met at the end of January 30th to begin planning, and further information on that event will be forthcoming. The Quality of Life Survey, the full reports are being completed still. Really positive feedback so far in terms of what we saw in the preliminary release and that COVID-19 section that came back as well. That's being used by organizations currently to strengthen funding applications, which is fantastic. So something good that can come out of all of that COVID stuff. Our Meals on Wheels and home cleaning contracts continue to work with Seniors Outreach and the Newell Foundation, who the Newbrook Lodge prepares meals. That's another thing I guess I didn't mention is the Newbrook Lodge is also, I think, moving forward with preparing freezer meals as well to the Meals on Wheels program. That way people can have access to these meals, like on the weekend. They can, have ready meals for them on the weekend where that service isn't available to them. So that's going to be starting up soon. I didn't have that in my notes, but I just remembered that one, so I can look that up for anyone if they're interested. And then again, mental health. Mental health is an issue. The FCSS is co-facilitating a mental health committee. I think I mentioned that in my last report. Victoria also sits at that table. The purpose is to provide opportunity, obviously, to collaborate within these among the different stakeholders, identify mental health issues, identify priorities, and take some concrete action. Provide mental wellness, public awareness, create and support mental health professional development initiatives relevant to rural Alberta. And that's going on, and I believe good work is happening there. I am reading just for that section, just the minutes from the last meeting because I wasn't able to attend. But the Citizen and Junior Citizen of the Year nomination packages are out, and the gala will be happening this year. And the last two galas before this year, I believe the recipients are being honored at this gala. So it's kind of a little catch-up gala. So the selection is happening March 21st, and the gala will be on Friday, April 14th at the Heritage. Tickets will be on sale at the Heritage and FCSS. And John Petrie is the MC, so y'all want to make sure you come out to this event.
Not for me.
It's going to be a great event, though. So, and with it not being able to happen over the last couple of years, many people, I think, are really looking forward to it. So, and then the Brooks Recreation and Parks Board, our board elections were held. Keith Lubbers and Greg Screever were re-elected as chair and vice chair, respectively. Let's see, I'm going to look at this here. In terms of recreation, also really good news. Pending finalization of job, or I guess position offers. This is the first time since before COVID that the pool will be fully staffed. So I don't know if you've noticed, but there's some new faces at the pool. It's not just the same poor few employees who are working really hard. But yeah, really encouraging that we've finally been able to see some really positive movement in that direction. Staff has been working really hard to find lifeguards and pool shift supervisors. So, we're looking at, they're looking at various grant opportunities for programming and equipment, and they're continuing to push the Sponsor a Lifeguard program, which is the potential to fund training for 2 youth to get certifications, the certifications to required to become a lifeguard. And I don't know if you've seen those advertisements around, but share them widely. The lighting retrofit is underway in both of our facilities. There's the LED lights that are being replaced. They're really noticeable. So now that I've mentioned it, if you go into the new facilities, you'll see it's like very bright. That's underway. Working on repairs to the field house and the CRA track flooring. And then our last meeting, we saw an update to our rules about wearing helmets, because that was an issue that was raised previously during public skates. There was a system where we had a waiver for those people who were 18 and older who did not want to wear helmets. But unfortunately, that was causing problems. It was really hard for staff to enforce, and patrons were becoming frustrated with the whole process of, have a waiver, I don't have a waiver, and then staff having to enforce that. So the policy is changing a little bit. So for shinny and stick and puck, any of those activities, you'll be required to wear a helmet, everybody. If it's a public skates time, then if you are 18 or older, it is not mandatory that you wear a helmet, although it is very strongly encouraged. And a new fountain in the pool and the front lobby of the JBS Center is going to they're going to be installed there, and it will have a water bottle fill station, and that is being provided by the Newell Wellness team. Rug applications are being accepted until February 28th, so a few more days to get those in. This is an opportunity for user groups in the city to apply for funding to support their recreational activities. The board will meet on March 15th to review the applications, and then I believe like early mid-April, the successful applicants will be contacted, and 50% of their funding will be given to them at the end of April. So that's underway. Hopefully we have lots of applications to look at. And then members of the board are meeting with RC Strategies to provide feedback and engage in discussions about the Trails Master Plan. That's happening tomorrow. The Trails Master Plan I can't remember if council committee saw the Trails Master Plan. Did we?
Nope.
No? Okay. Well, it looks great.
Have we,
It's very
Alicia?
exciting. But the Trails Master Plan, it will see that our neighborhoods, our parks, our trails are all connected throughout the city. It will also, and landmarks as well, beautification of our trails. And so tomorrow, the members of the board will be meeting with the organization RC Strategies, who's been commission to build this master plan. And interviews and discussions are also being facilitated with other community organizations, as well as a resident survey. So there should be a resident survey that's available on the city website. Was it? Okay, I was just gonna say, I looked, couldn't find it, but it is available today, so I encourage everybody to fill it out so that you can give your feedback into, for the Trails Master Plan. And then lastly, Newell 911, we had our meeting in December. We passed we approved the budget, and the board decided to ultimately lower municipal requisitions. Yay, good news for all of us. So because our most recent contract that we signed sees our dispatch fees significantly lowered, we decided that we would pass, the board decided that we would pass those savings on to the municipalities by 20%. So we took a 20%, we lowered the requisitions by 20%. So just for the city of Brooks, that will result in $11,491.48. We already have a healthy savings surplus, so we'll see that happening between Brooks and the county, Bazzano, Dutchess, and Rosemary. It is about $19,271 in savings. So good news. And I believe that's it. That's all I have.
Good, thank you very much. Okay, Councilor Jessica.
Thank you. So far as workshops, Alberta Municipal Climate Leadership Council had its first meeting and was attended by representatives from 11 cities, 11 towns, 4 villages, and 4 municipal districts. So the facilitators are the Municipal Climate Change Action Center project team, which since 2009 has overseen $60 million in projects with $150 million in energy savings, and the Community Energy Project Association, which has been in existence since 1995. So this was just the start of this group. The objectives of the workshop were to develop an understanding of the project, learn about member concerns, and we broke up into a number of workshop teams, and inform its future direction. It has a wide focus, including energy efficiency, waste reduction, and waste management. And moving forward, it will develop tools to help support local projects and initiatives through the council itself, through a development of a playbook, which similar to something that BC has already done, development of a planner tool, and they also have a BC model for that, and in phase 2, a peer network. So far as committees, so the Southern Alberta Energy from Waste Association chose the Hitachi Zosen Innova proposal of the 3 for construction of a waste-to-energy plant at the Newell Regional Landfill, or development of such a facility. And memorandum of understanding is being negotiated right now, and a provincial grant has been applied for to finance the process. The selection of a multinational partner for the project has given the project a higher profile and credibility, and financing options are being explored, and there have been contacts with ATB, FCM, and Canadian Infrastructure Bank. So a fairly major step forward. We're not at the end of the process, but it's fairly major. Sign committee met on January 31st to look at speed limit change and deer crossing sign and a 4-way stop request. In both cases, no action was taken at this time. There were complications with the location of the deer crossing sign and existing speed zones, and it being at the junction of the city and the county with a number of intersections. Repeat requests for stop signs are tracked, and if multiple requests for a particular location are received, then the location is reassessed. So EcoBrooks finished off the year with the environmental art contest for the schools, and with the environmental Christmas wrap project in conjunction with a city event at the JBS Center. So They were very successful, and some of the art is going to be used to promote EcoBrooks initiatives. A recycling bin, which was ordered in 2021, has finally arrived for placement at city facilities and events. And we're working on having a speaker for Earth Day. So the one that initially contacting speaks on, or is very knowledgeable on regenerative farming. If that doesn't work out, I'm hoping we can get the rattlesnake guy. So that's, I'm kind of hoping, though, the first one doesn't work out. A delegation proposing a cup rental program to discourage disposable cups presented to EcoBrooks. And this will be followed up with a survey of Brooks coffee shops to see if there is some potential for that. It has been done successfully in Vancouver, but the dynamics are quite different. So Brandy Dorkson was on the board, EcoBrooks board before, and she has returned to EID and is being put forward as a representative again, so that is good news. Filling citizen at large spots continues to be a challenge, especially as only Brooks residents can apply. And we may be asking council to look into that a little bit and see if there's any flexibility. We did have a display in the Flex Hall during JBS Center Family Day events, and it focused on pollinators and flower biology as well as recycling, and the JBS Center was very busy yesterday. And EcoBrooks is administering a grants program for the Brooks Solar 2 Community Benefit Grant Program. So there's some contact information in the city ad in the Brooks Bulletin, and this is going to provide funds for individuals and groups to work on or carry forward environmental initiatives and projects, and hopefully we'll get some action on that. And that's going to carry on for a number of years. Communities in Bloom will be competing internationally this year, and this will be under the Brooks Region Communities in Bloom. This is done so that features outside Brooks municipal boundaries can be included in the judging. So we're looking at where they might be able to go within the time constraints of the judging. And sites under consideration include the Bazzano Dam and the EID, Dinosaur Park, the Aqueduct, and the Scandia Historical Park. A project related to the 55+ games was discussed, and Brooks Parks has been contacted for ideas and possible collaboration on that. And there's also discussion of a future project or project of the city entrances along the #1 highway, which is something that we have talked about here, and also with potential for collaboration. There already are some features, the wind art by McDonald's, and that's a fairly visible location coming into town from the north, and it appears to have a fairly good amount of space there. So this is one of the areas that we're thinking might be worth pursuing. And also we're hoping we can get some grant funding for an associated solar project. The Brooks and District Museum is still, the trailer park is doing well and is solvent. Christmas light display revenues were approximately half of 2021's, with $2,875 from the donation box and $6,785 from businesses and an individual, and $6,350 in expenses. So the weather may have had something to do with that. There has been some success with grant applications for 2023, including for workers for the summer. And we've been discussing the potential for Fall Fair trade show. Tanya, who's being groomed to take over as curator, has completed 5 of 8 AMA curator courses, as well as 5 through the University of Victoria, and her grades have been very good. So Mrs. Bander may actually eventually be able to retire if this carries on. And that's what I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Nesbitt.
Am I on? First, I had a nice 10-page report here until I realized that it was already done on one sheet for me. So first, I'm going to talk about the Alberta 55+ Summer Games. And this is very important because we need lots of volunteers and lots of sponsors. And the games are going to take place this August 17th to the 20th. Registration and open ceremonies are scheduled for August the 17th. Sports start on the morning of August 18th and go on until the closing ceremonies on August 20th. And we need the volunteers. And as a volunteer, all you'll be doing is working with the games. Everything from card games to athletic competitions, photography, 8-ball pool, which, by the way, I sponsored. Once we match your application with a coordinator, you can speak with them about roles available. Every role filled is helping to make this event a success, because there's going to be a lot of people coming in here, and they're going to be booking every room there is in this town. And so we do need a lot of volunteers and, again, sponsors. Anybody can volunteer. Anyone between 12 and 16, you have to have a responsible adult volunteer along with them. And if you're volunteering with a structured organization for youth, we ask that you follow your organization's guideline for supervisory ratios. If you're going to compete, you can still volunteer. Only restriction is that you cannot volunteer for the event you're competing in, which makes sense. If you have limited mobility, you can still compete. We have volunteer roles available for everyone. Can I volunteer with my friends and family? You bet. Please communicate your request with the coordinator that contacts you. Is there a specific skill or training I need to volunteer? Some roles may need a specific skill, but you can be provided with other things to do rather than just one thing. What if it's poor weather? What if it's pouring rain like it always does at rodeo time here? Well, games still go on. Unfortunately for you, without a rain hat. Yeah, you're in there all the time, watching and participating. If you have any questions for this, our games coordinator is Kelly Sanford, and her office is over right beside the swimming pool. And it's KSANFORD@brooks.ca, or you can call her at 403-362-3622, an extension 1311, and she'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have in this. Now for the Brooks Library Board. After report to council, Brooks Junior High and the school board regarding unruly kids in the library during the lunch hour, there's been significant improvements. And I think it took a principal and a school board to achieve this, but a visit at noon hour from the principal of junior high has reduced the adverse reactions between students in the library. And I was in there today, and they said everything's just going tickety-boo. There hasn't been anything happening there that's been causing an interaction between the librarian and people reading books in there. They're actually going to be hosting a wedding in the premises this summer. Although it is not going to be a large function, a fee has been set for the event because they have to close down for when this event happens. It's a good time to have a wedding. The library is frequently invited to participate in community events, but usually can't for three main reasons. Either they are held on stat holidays, organized on too short a notice than library scheduling, and lack of staff available at that time. But sometimes the library will attend events on, our librarian attends events on her own time just to keep us all abreast of what's happening. Some of the review services that are happening there, like reaffirm literacy and programming. All library programming should include literacy-inspiring components, and that's ongoing monitoring there. Promotion of our in-house use, free fee structures. Board manager and staff, that's an ongoing event there. Read Away Your Fines initiative for children. If they owe a fine, if you read enough books, you can get rid of that fine. And that's a constant event that's going on there too. Otherwise, things are rolling really well at the library now. The complaints from some students causing ruckuses has ceased at this time. Now, the Shortgrass Library, which is situated in Medicine Hat, the head office. It's been a very busy first year. The majority of the time has been spent dealing with the following tasks: dealing with third-party bookkeeping firms, providing information, payables, receivables, payroll information, monitoring all bookkeeping, and following up on all errors. The objective of this is a reliable stewardship of all resources. And this is constant every year that this is on this list. Working with the JMH and Company during the in-person portion of the 2022 financial audit. This involves pulling up a lot of paper files, invoices, providing background information on various information, preparing year-end reports or the pension plans, et cetera, which they have a pension plan there because they are a union in Medicine Hat. And she has, the librarian has all this information set aside each year, so it's not so hard to find all the information that the accountants need. And ensuring that 222 year end and the 223 beginning of the year are all wrapped up and organized. This involves completing annual reports for Alberta Pension Services, WCB, PLSB, as well as updating internal spreadsheets related to salary, vacation time, sick time, pension, extended health care, etc. And the objective of this, obviously, is for reliable stewardship of all resources. And onboarding of the new manager systems and technical services. The objectives of this is the system staff are all informed of relevant operational matters. They have meetings daily, open communications with their policies and practices, encouraging teamwork, engagement, and sense of ownership. A lot of overtime has been put in during January 23 to ensure all CEO, executive assistants, and bookkeeping responsibilities are all taken care of. Other than that, the libraries is doing fantastic. Lots of people in there all the time. Now we'll go on to the Newell Regional Water, the water that we drink in our homes. Some things that happened where there was a leak in the service line in Tilly, led to residents outside the hamlet boundary to the east. The leak occurred on the Tilly School property, which was an issue in a general area of the track and field track. The line was exposed and repaired with no service disruptions. The Second Avenue service line in Leak and Tilly was also repaired, and also on 35th 2nd Street East. Leak was exposed and repaired without any other service disruptions. There's still a lot of old water lines in Tilly that have to be dug up and replaced, and the old pipes taken out because there's been instances where they've fixed a sewer line and hooked it onto the old one, and not the new one, and the house was still impacted because of that. They're replacing impellers on the 2 lift station pumps, one in each in Scandia and one in Tilly. These repairs are due to normal wear and tear, and there are regular occurrences over time. Repairs, they were installed on the week of January 9th. Wastewater collection. MP Engineering has completed the assessment of the Lake Newell Resort lift station. This will ascertain the overall condition of the situation and will determine what repairs and upgrades will be required to ensure its long life viability. We're waiting for MP to submit the report to us still. Let's see, what else is exciting here? Well, that's pretty well it. Any questions so far? Oh, I think that's all my reports. That is my report. Questions?
How much for the waiting at the library there?
How much what?
How much for the waiting? How much are they charging for the waiting?
I can't hear you, sorry.
Oh, how much are they charging
Oh,
for the wedding?
That's, they have to charge what the normal fees would be. So like they have an hourly time there, so that's what they're charging. They're not losing any money on this whatsoever.
Okay.
They're charging, I think it's, no, I better not say how much because
Oh,
I'm not
okay,
too
yeah,
sure
yeah.
who the wedding's for, and I don't want, it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's something they felt that would emphasize the librarian and or the library. You know, that's something that
Yeah.
would make news, and I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, very creative, unique idea.
It is unique.
Yeah, any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Prentice, yeah.
It's not a question, actually what it is, John's report, basically, all that stuff is in the county of Newell. It has nothing to do with the city of Brooks, so it's not problems that the city has.
Oh,
It's
okay.
with
Oh, okay.
outside areas, and it all is county of Newell.
Yeah,
The Newell region's looking after, just to clarify that.
yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, Councilor Andrus, yeah.
And one actually is for Councillor Wardrop. Did the community be selected for the community dinner on June 2nd?
I believe it has been. I should know that off the top of my head, but let me just take a look. It's at the Castles Community Hall.
Okay.
Let me double check that for you,
Okay,
but I
thank
know
you.
that's where it is.
Thank you. And then a question for Councillor Jessica. Is Communities in Bloom now regional? I know there was that talk about it and they came to share services.
There's no other communities involved with it directly, so it's not until your Dutchess or no. Sorry, yeah, no, it's, by saying Brooks Region, it gives them the ability to highlight things outside of the city of Brooks, but we're not involving any other communities as part of the Communities of Bloom. It's still strictly a Brooks initiative.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor. Okay, yeah.
Sorry for Councillor Wardrop. On this, the housing situation at the lodge is certainly good news. Does the same organization look after the villas, and if so, what's the situation there?
Yes, it does. And the villas are, to my knowledge, usually full. There's usually a waiting list to get on those.
Yeah, there's usually a big waiting list for that one, yeah.
Yeah, part of the initiative to fill some vacancies at the lodge was actually to approach some of the residents at the villas who their long-term plan is to make their way over to the lodge, offer them that tour, offer them that 3-day trial, and see if that's something that would be a better fit for them. Because the villas are usually always full,
Yeah.
right? There's consistently
Usually
a waiting list there,
waiting
yeah.
list for that one, yeah.
And that liaison position would be going to the villas as well. So it'd be kind of going through all of the seniors housing that is run by that organization.
Go ahead, Councilor Idris.
Thank you. One more question for you, Councillor Wardrop. So you have the subsidy program, the housing subsidy, where you help people in the community with part of their rent when they are in private rentals. I am understanding that the program is overprescribed and now they are not accepting new applications or something like that. Is that provincial thing?
I don't know about that, so you're saying they're not, we're not accepting any new applicants? So it's whoever's in the program now is in the program. My guess would be, and maybe Mayor Petrie can help me with this, but it would be if the Newell Housing Foundation isn't accepting any more applicants, it would be that we have nowhere to house them. Like there'd be no other place to go.
It's the private rentals. It's not like, I know your housing is there, but there is the fund, the subsidies for people who are in private rentals, not in the.
Oh,
Yeah, and maybe Amanda or Alan can kind of, are we talking about,
so with the same.
yeah, go ahead, Amanda, yeah.
I'm not sure how it is for private rentals, but for the Brooks Housing Society, the money that we had for the subsidy program, it was some money that came from the province. And we actually don't give out subsidies anymore because that money has been expended.
Okay, go ahead, Alan.
I believe there's one other program, and that was with Newell Housing before they merged with the lodges.
Yeah.
And Newell Housing, I know the province always did allocate some grant funding for that, and generally they did run out, so I'm wondering if that's the same program.
Maybe
That's
it's-
probably
okay.
That
what
is
that
the
is.
program I'm asking about. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, yeah, I'm not aware. That would have been before my time on the board.
Yeah, and because we've both been on there since the merger took place, there, yeah, okay. Okay, I had a couple meetings, I attended there, I was attended the Mid-City Mayor's meeting through Zoom there. They have an annual fee of $2,000 to belong to this committee here, and they're looking at increasing that to maybe $10,000, but they'll talk a little bit more about it at the March meeting. I won't be at that March meeting, but Councilor Goodenough and Alan Martin will be at that meeting there too. Mid-City Mayors are applying for an ACP, Alberta Communication Partnership grant of $400,000. They need a formal agreement from our council to support this. Doesn't cost us any money. We have to just kind of support it, so it might help them get their grant there too. The Mid-City Mayor's Summit will be in Cochrane, March 22nd to 24th. Municipal Affairs Minister Schultz will be there, as will NDP leader, Notley, Alberta leader Mayor Morishita, and Premier Smith on that one there too. Copping, Health Minister Copping was in this call here too. I won't go over too much of what he says because a lot of it has been in the mainstream media there too, but he says more will be coming when the budget comes out next week there too. He pointed out that there are probably more doctors in Alberta now than there was pre-pandemic, but some of the smaller communities are not getting the doctors. We're fortunate here in our area here, as we heard through joint services, that we got a full contingent of doctors, and Pisano is getting a doctor here too. They also, just a couple things they pointed out, too, they're getting more nurses from the Philippines. They're going to open up more seats for nurses at the university level there, too. Also had the meeting with MP Martin Shields. This is held every 6 to 8 weeks with the mayors, Reeves, and MLAs in MP Shields' constituency. Premier Smith was on the call, so a lot of the questions were actually directed towards her. She noted that a lot of social disorder that is happening in the major cities is shifting to small communities and cities now. And she says they're putting more money towards mental health. She touched briefly on LGFF, or the MSI replacement there, and as one mayor noted on that call there, that money is so important for our communities. She said there'll be more coming about this later this month, you know, after the budget there too, and I don't know if they got a formula planned, but that will probably come hopefully before the election, or who knows when that's going to happen there too. Interesting discussion with her too about renewables, and I think we've talked about this quite a bit here, about some municipalities having difficulty with good farmland going for solar or wind projects, but she says in a lot of cases it's the landowner selling or renting the property to them based on the sale of carbon credits, and again it goes back to landowner rights on that. The landowner has a right to do with his property, you know, what he wants. For MP Martin Shields, he seemed happy with the new boundaries for his riding, which should condense it a little bit for his travel. I think he said the plan that came out last week, and I think it was in the bulletin there, will be the one that will go into the next election there too. Interesting thing he talked about, and this is sort of in the ag field here, it's a chemical that was banned by the federal government, but this chemical helps reduce mites and cutter bees, and cutter bees are really important in our area here for alfalfa and canola seed industries there. And Canada, of course, exports a lot of this stuff south of the border and worldwide there too, and we could lose our market there if this chemical comes into place here. But to me, again, it's one of these situations where a decision was made in Ottawa, not really consulting the people at the bottom level here too. So Martin Shields is working on that there too. Alan and I met with Trent Forsberg with Victims Assistance. They're talking about changes for that. Victim Services will be under 4 regions in the province, and the reason he said they're doing this is to standardize the program around the province to make sure that everything is consistent, and they have standard operating procedures, and they close the gap of services. Apparently there's some areas that operate different than other areas there too. He says it should save them about $3.5 million in administrative costs. The new region will consist of 10 member boards, and as Ellen and I pointed out here, our concerns are that we would like representation on that board, as we have a diverse community with unique circumstances, and hopefully we do get 1 or 2 people on that board there, but no guarantees on that. Existing staff will have to apply for their positions. Trent says the new formula will provide stable funding, and the goal is to have the new system rolled out by April 2024 there. So, any questions on any of those? Councillor Wardrop.
I don't have a question, but I do have a clarification for Councillor Idris there. The honoring a community dinner, so it's being hosted by Castles, and it is to honor Brooks and Newell region, so it's the whole region this time, yeah.
Okay, to the motion there, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Prentice that the February 2023 financial variance report be accepted as information. Shelley?
Thank you through the chair to Mayor and Council. So this report that's attached finds the city approximately 12% of the way through the 2023 year. And of course, the variance reports compare our actual year-to-date expenses to the 2023 budget. Most of the variances this year are caused by timing differences because it's early in the year, which is understandable. But I have pointed out a few notable events which may, at the end of the year, cause variances either way. The first is one Councillor Wardrop already spoke about, and that is the Newell 911. In regards to their 2023 dispatch fees, which in our case were about $13,000 lower than our anticipated budget. And now that the Newell region has fully transitioned to AFRAX radios, the Newell 911 was able to decommission their communication tower, resulting in those cost savings that were passed on to participating municipalities. Also, we must mention the snow and ice removal that's happened throughout the city. Our costs are approximately $71,000 over budget on a prorated basis. This is due to January's weather with the rain and snow mix causing a significant amount of ice on the roadways and sidewalks. So our city crews continue to work to ensure that the roads and sidewalks remain safe. And again, the snowfall today probably won't help things. But. And as shown in the attached report, the city's equipment maintenance budget is slightly high due to having to contract out our fleet and specialty vehicle repairs in the absence of an in-house mechanic. In regards to the capital budget, obviously it's still early in the year for a lot of our projects, but some have begun, as illustrated in the report. One favorable variance to note is that the Parks Department was able to replace their wood chipper for about $13,000 lower than the budgeted amount. Just to make a note, the budget amounts in the capital variance report do not yet include the carry forwards of the 2022 budget. By the next report, those carry forwards will be finalized and will be reflected on the report. And that's all I have, if there's any questions.
Okay, any questions? Okay, perfect, okay. To the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Wardrop that Holly White be appointed to the Brooks Public Library Board for a first 3-year term commencing February 22nd, 2023 and ending February 21st, 2026. Amy.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mayor and Council. The Library Board has reviewed an application received for a member-at-large position and is recommending that they be appointed to the Library Board for a first 3-year term. Holly White would like to volunteer in the community and is passionate about the importance of libraries and the meaningful programs and services that they provide. Therefore, administration is recommending that Holly White be appointed to the Brooks Public Library Board for a first 3-year term commencing February 22nd, 2023 and ending February 21st, 2026.
Any questions? To the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Goodenough that Brandy Dorkson be appointed to the City of Brooks Environmental Advisory Committee as a member from the local industrial sector for a first 3-year term commencing February 22nd, 2023 and ending February 21st, 2026. Amy again.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mayor and Council. The Environmental Advisory Committee is made up of 12 members in accordance with the bylaw. The committee is currently in the process of advertising for 5 citizen at-large members. They received an application from Brandy Dirksen to serve on the committee and are recommending that she be appointed as a member from the local industrial sector for a first 3-year term. Brandy served on the committee as the EID member from August 2019 until June 2022. She also served as chair in the latter part of her appointment, and she has a background in environmental science, conservation, sustainability, and previous knowledge of EcoBrooks operations. Therefore, administration is recommending that Brandy Dirksen be appointed to the City of Brooks Environmental Advisory Committee as a member from the local industrial sector for a first 3-year term, commencing February 22nd, 2023 and ending February 21st, 2026.
Okay, any questions? Okay. Okay. All those in favor? Okay, carried. Okay, moved by Councilor Idris that the City of Brooks assign the required contract and memorandum of agreement to become a member of the Alberta Living Wage Network. Lisa.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. A living wage is the hourly wage a worker needs to earn to cover their basic expenses, and the Alberta Living Wage Network has developed a standard methodology for calculating this for our province. The network consists of 15 urban municipalities across Alberta, and a living wage has been calculated for each one. The local statistics and rates are gathered by staff people at the municipality, and they cover the cost of shelter, food, transportation, childcare, clothing, healthcare, tuition, etc. These local costs go towards the calculation for a living wage. Of those 15 member municipalities, the highest living wage was Canmore at $32.75, and the lowest came in for Medicine Hat at $17.50. This information, along with the details for calculating a living wage, are all attached in the documents. Staff sees a living wage as a useful tool for community and economic development. If the living wage for a community is low, it shows potential residents that the community is highly affordable. It can also be used as a tool for businesses to become certified as a living wage employer, which helps attract or retain employees. So becoming a member of this network would allow for collaboration with other municipalities and organizations, and we would receive key messages, a media kit, customized social media cards to use in our community. The cost for joining the Alberta Living Wage Network is $1,500 per year and could be funded under existing operational budget, and we would be required to sign an MOA and a contract to become a member of the network. So at this time, staff is recommending that we do sign the required contract and MOA to become a member of the Alberta Living Wage Network.
And that's the reason why we're not on the list, or the City of Brooks is not on the list, is because we're not a member of that.
That's correct. At some point, maybe there was a call out, or these municipalities were already part of a network of some sort, but that's why we're not currently on the list.
Okay, and how often do they do this survey? Do they come once a year, twice a year?
To recruit members?
Well, no.
Or to come up with the wage?
To basically find out your criteria there. I forget what it was. You talked about transportation, accommodation, food, and all that.
I know that the last time it was done across the province was November 2022. I'm not sure if they do it typically once a year, like in the fall, or if they do it whenever a community needs or wants that updated information. Because the onus is on the municipality staff members to collect the local data, it would then essentially just go into the algorithm to spit out that number. So if the community feels as though their figure should be reviewed or changed, perhaps they could do it on their own.
Okay. Councillor Jessica?
Yeah, I was looking at the numbers. If you take out, well, Canmore is definitely an outlier. Medicine is almost an outlier, but there's very, very little variability between the communities throughout the province. The average would be probably right around $20. And you did refer to staff time that would be put towards generating the data for this number. Any idea what the cost might be associated with that staff time? And it's not a lot of money, but at the end of the day, do we really gain that much from it?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Jessica, the network approximated about 5 hours of staff time in order to collect the data that's required. Some of these statistics we already have on hand because we use them for our own economic development and marketing purposes. So just to collect that initial set of data, we conservatively say 5 hours of staff time, probably between myself, we may need to reach out to some other local organizations like FCSS and then our economic development, community development department. And then moving forward, there is an expectation that members of the network participate in monthly network meetings, which could be an hour or so, and they're held via Zoom. So again, then there would be a little bit of extra time spent in terms of networking with other members and collaborating and promoting the program as it goes on. So you could say perhaps another 15 to 20 hours throughout the year from there on. So for about 25 hours a year, we would have a figure that we can use for our own personal or internal promotions, as well as other organizations in the community can use this as well. And I do know that there's other social service organizations that are interested in using this information.
Okay, Counselor Wardrope, and then, okay. Okay, Counselor, yeah, good enough.
So I'm curious, so we're gonna pay them $1,500 for you to collect the data to use. But there's also, so I'm kind of confused on that. But I noticed that there is an opportunity for businesses then to become a part of this program too. So would part of our job or your job be to recruit these businesses then to sign up to the yearly membership?
Through the chair to Councillor Goodenough, from what I understand is that when the business participates, they participate through the certification program. That if our living wage came out to be, let's say, $18 an hour, and your business has made a vow that they will start, that they won't pay minimum wage, that they'll pay the local living wage, then your business would become a living wage certified business. So we wouldn't have to recruit businesses to be part of the network. We would have to share information to our local business community regarding the living wage certify program. And if any local businesses wanted to participate to say that they are a living wage certified business, then we would just essentially get them to sign on and make the vow that they are going to start their hourly wages at that living wage. So they wouldn't become a member of the network, they would get certified through us.
So is there a fear that, what if it comes back at $17 is the living wage for Brooks? Let's say JBS, who currently pays $23 an hour, is there a risk that they will drop, that they could potentially say, well, you know what, Brooks, you only need $17 to live. We're going to reduce. You don't have to answer that. That's just a comment.
No, yeah, I will answer it because I think that essentially what the root belief behind a living wage is that that is the absolute bare minimum. That keeps you just a smidge above the poverty line.
You can buy eggs.
You can finally afford to buy eggs.
Yeah.
And I think that most businesses in our community, they don't want that for their employees. They want to see them thrive in a community, and they want to see them participate in all aspects of the community and be able to save for the future and achieve good things in the community. So I don't believe that many businesses would go the opposite, would take away from their employees, would essentially at that point they'd be saying, oh, you're living too large, I'm going to reduce you down. And I don't think that that's a risk in our business community.
No, I don't think so either. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Woodruff.
Thank you. I think this is a fantastic idea. I do, in my opinion, the costs seem relatively really small for the potential benefit that it could have on our workforce and the marketability of our city and the livability for the people who work here. So I love it. I'm curious if you have any idea in your expertise where we would fall just as an estimation, if you're willing to kind of, as you know, Medicine Hat surprised me that it was so low compared to other places in the province. So do you have any idea of where you expect us to fall here?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Wardrop, optimistically, I think we're going to fall somewhere in and around that Medicine Hat range. And the big reasons I have for saying that is because some of the largest parts of the calculation, and you can see that from the attached document, go towards shelter costs, food costs, transportation costs. We do know that in the city of Brooks that over 71% of people commute less than 15 minutes to work. So transportation costs are relatively low because there's not a long commute. Nobody's stuck on the Deerfoot. And we do know that on average, on a Canadian average, and even across Alberta, that our housing costs are 65% lower than the Canadian average. So those two figures in and of themselves, transportation and housing, we know we already have a distinct advantage. So I'm thinking that we're going to be probably a little bit towards the lower end of the spectrum, but I don't necessarily know in terms of where we would rank for things like childcare, food costs. You don't really know how we would compare with other grocery stores because we don't have as much variety, I guess you could say, as some of the larger centers.
And just to clarify, if I could follow, this is completely voluntary for all of the businesses in Brooks. Like if they want to participate, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to.
Absolutely. It's also voluntary for us. If we get our figure back and it's, $50 an hour, which I don't think it would be, then it's voluntary for us too, that we can promote it as loudly or as quietly as we want. We'd still be a member of the network, of course. But if we see that there may be some flaws in the data or something that would skew it somehow negatively towards us, then we don't necessarily have to use it.
Okay, Councilor Jessica?
Would part of the process be to look at what the wages actually are across the City of Brooks' different businesses and employers?
Through the chair to Councilor Jessica, it certainly could be. I know that's something that our workforce development officer is working on right now as it leads towards employee retention as opposed to just workforce attraction. It leads towards workforce retention, those fringe benefits that are offered in terms of vacation time and other employee perks, as well as wages. So that's further down the road in terms of our workforce development officer's task list, but that is on the radar.
Councilor Idris?
Thank you, Lisa, for this. I agree with Councillor Wardrop. This is a very good tool to use. I think it shows and it signals our commitment to the well-being of our citizens. The commitment. I know the word itself and the concept itself of a minimum wage or a living wage may have some people who are against or that, but I actually believe it goes to show that there is a commitment towards the well-being of our community and our members. So I think, considering the cost, I think if we go ahead now and bring a consultant to do something like this, it will cost us this much more. I have seen this also being used by some of community organizations that are funded by the government or some donors or things like that, where you can use this data to your funder to say, this is the minimum, this is the living wage in our community, and we believe our staff deserve that, and our staff needs that to be able to provide the services in the community that they live in. It also encourages employers. When employers don't have that data, they don't have a frame of reference. But when the employers have that data, it encourages them to see it from that angle, to see it from, whether it is attraction, whether it is retention. So I think this is good. I thank you for doing that, and I fully support that.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Councilor Woodrup?
Just one, it's more of a comment, I guess, than a question, but the only thing that I wasn't 100% clear on, especially for our community and our demographic, would be the way that the household structures are, I know you're already smiling, the household structures are looked at, and the way that the different costs are evaluated based on the composition of your home. So here it's either a two-parent family with 2 young children, a lone parent family with 1 young child, or a single individual living alone. That struck me as a little bit like that it could skew our results a little bit, that a livable wage may be more, it may sound a little rosier than what it actually is for a lot of our demographic here, where our families just look really different here in Brooks.
Through the chair to Councilor Wardrop, that's something that caught my attention as well, because the calculation is done as a weighted average based on how many of each household type there is in Alberta, not in the community itself. So if you look at the statistic or the data when they talk about the cost for a family of 4, lone parent, single individual, and then you look at the living wage, it does kind of skew a little bit more towards that there's a higher percentage of single individuals accounted for within that, within the algorithm. Mm-hmm. And I think in our community, it's a little bit the opposite, that there's more large families than there are single, especially retired or dual income, no kids type households. So it may be a little skewed, but I do still think that it is better than what we have, and what we have right now is nothing. So we'll use the number, obviously, as any statistic, that it's not perfect.
Okay, Councilor Idris?
I did actually think about that, and also about the idea of part-time and full-time. In looking at some sectors in our community, there is an increase of part-time jobs, for example, in some service service and in hospitality and things like that. And that could also may draw a picture that is not exactly, and I don't know how they deal with it in that sense.
Okay, Alan?
Yeah, it's interesting too, because what they're looking at is an average of a 35-hour work week, so be interesting to see when they establish a business does provide a living wage, are they going to look at just the hour, are they going to say, or dollarly wage, or are they going to say, well, yes, but you get 40 hours a week, so you're putting more than that. So that'll be interesting to find out too.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Jessica that the City of Brooks join the regional sponsorship of the International Federation of Ag Journalists, the IFAJ, Congress and Tour for up to $20,000, and this be funded through the Council Special Projects Reserve. Lisa.
Through the chair to mayor and council. From June 27th to July 3rd, Olds, Alberta will be the host site of the 2023 International Federation of Ag Journalists, the IFAJ Congress. And part of this Congress, delegates will be able to join a pre-event farm tour on June 26th and 27th, and we have been chosen as one of the host sites for one of the days of that tour. So the plan right now is for a group of 20 to 30 journalists from around the world to do a tour across southern Alberta with a focus on irrigation and what it means to agriculture here. They will leave by bus from Calgary on June 26th, travel to Lethbridge and Tabor and tour around those areas, and then travel to Brooks to spend the night. And then on day 2, June 27th, they're going to tour the Brooks-Newell region. So they are tentatively planning to stop at the Aqueduct, a local farm, a vegetable processor, a local restaurant, a feedlot, and then the Bizano Dam before returning to Calgary. Then the next day, they will begin the IFAJ Congress, which will welcome between 200 and 300 agricultural journalists from around the world. They will take in the event and publish stories for their rural readers in their publications, many of whom are customers of Canadian ag products. So this is a very unique opportunity, not only that the Congress is coming to Canada of all the countries in the world, but that it's coming to Alberta of all the provinces in Canada, but then it's also coming right to our front door. So we have a good opportunity to receive positive international publicity for our local producers and our ag industry. And then there's an attachment as well that talks about some of the stories that were published following the IFAJ Congress, which was recently held in Denmark. Sponsorship opportunities are available, and these were discussed at the Joint Services meeting on February 14th. They passed a motion to seek a platinum sponsorship on behalf of the region, and this would include the city, the county, the EID, and perhaps smaller municipalities, and as each would benefit from the positive exposure. Assuming it's just the City of Brooks and the County of Newell that participate in the sponsorship, then the cost would be at most for the city is $20,000, and this could decrease as more partners commit. A breakdown of the sponsorship recognition at each level is attached. And while the farm tour is in our region, Joint Services has committed to make an extra effort to ensure that those delegates have a really great time and experience some good Brooks Western hospitality. So any costs incurred in doing that would be covered under the Joint Services budget. So our recommendation is that the City of Brooks join the regional sponsorship for the IFAJ Congress and Tour for up to $20,000, and that this be funded from Council Special Projects.
Okay, questions? Councillor Jessica.
Can I have questions since I made the motion? Okay, now this one really does disturb me. So you're not saying that we give them 20,000, but up to 20,000. I understand EID hasn't been part of this discussion up till now.
Through the chair to Councillor Jessica, the platinum sponsorship is $40,000. The County of Newell is very much committed. They haven't passed a motion at council yet, but they have a lot of council support for the initiative. So at most, our share would be half. Per this motion, at most the city would be willing to spend would be $20,000 towards partnership. I have spoken to staff at the EID, and they're aware of this, and they know kind of what our discussion was at Joint Services and what the intent was there. They, as a board, I don't believe have been approached formally for sponsorship either from us or from IFAJ.
Well, our financial situation is certainly different than that of the county. if we're looking at doing it ourselves and no one else were to contribute, I might consider another 5 to bring it up to the gold. But I really, you know, we struggled quite mightily to come up with, to approve the money for the Bandits bid for $50,000, which would bring a lot of benefits directly to the community. And then to throw 50 at this, I would really have to be convinced that the value is there for the city of Brooks.
Any other questions? Councilor Prentice?
So how much is the, whatchamacallit, putting into the thing, joint services?
The city's contribution to joint services?
Yeah, what's joint services putting money into this?
Oh, joint service, through the chair to Councilor Prentice, joint services is committed to funding any of the expenses incurred when the tour is here. So those expenses might be to cover the lunch or to cover a dinner or some sort of social event for the 20 to 30 journalists that are part of the farm tour. This platinum sponsorship would be towards the Congress as a whole, which would get the region exposure to the 300 journalists as opposed to just the 20 to 30. So joint services, they didn't commit a specific funding amount because the details of the tour haven't been worked out yet, and I think they're waiting to see exactly where opportunities would be for them to participate in that tour.
I guess my problem with it is the city of Brooks puts money into joint services, which we're already spending. I'm not too sure that taxpayers should be paying for tours like this, because the city itself, I'm not too sure is going to be directly gain a whole lot except publicity. And it seems like everybody looks for money to bring people here, but it's a good idea, but I think they have to start covering their own costs, some of it. And as a taxpayer, I don't think they should be having to pay to bring people like that in, it's my own opinion.
Councilor Goodenough, I think, and then Woodruff, yeah.
I'm curious, you know, like we're talking about advertise, this will put us on the world stage, is kind of what you're sharing. Yet we're already there. We're you know, Alberta is known for its agriculture already. I'm not sure what having 300, or, well, I don't even know if it'd be 300, 20 to 30 journalists to come and tell us what the world already knows about us. I understand what we were talking about for maybe our region. I'm really wrestling with this, to be honest, to support this motion. I just don't know, I don't see the value, so that's just my comments on this so far.
Councilor Woodruff?
I guess just a point of clarification. So this group would be coming to Brooks anyway. And then, right, yes. And then could you walk me through, maybe I'm just, so I'm looking at the table with the different sponsor levels and the opportunities and the details. So like under the platinum, we get like, you know, we'd have the breakfast speakers program and lunch, and then a gala dinner at Old. So is the big event is happening in Olds, right? And so this is like what, so at Olds, we would have like City of Brooks, County of Newell region, like write 2 full page color ads in that presentation, like whatever stuff is handed out at that, at the large place, right?
Through the chair to Councilor Wardrop, the tour is happening in the Brooks Newell region with 20 to 30 journalists, and that's happening anyway. They're also doing another tour somewhere in central Alberta, but this one focusing on irrigation is happening here regardless, and Joint Services has committed to helping make that event special. The platinum sponsorship will go towards the entire Congress, which is the week-long conference, essentially, that's in Olds. So that's where we would get the full-page color ads in the program for the overall Congress, which is 200 to 300 journalists, as opposed to just the 10% that'll be here for the tour. we'd get to introduce a speaker, we'd get, 3 delegates attend the event, and all of those other details that are listed there at the overall Congress. So the differences between sponsoring getting exposure on the pre-conference event and then getting exposure to everyone at the actual conference.
And at that conference, I know that the journalists, that's the big draw here, but there will be other delegates from other communities. There's ways for us to network there or is this just purely for the exposure to journalists, I guess?
Through the chair to Councillor Wardrop, it's essentially for exposure to journalists, so
Okay.
that we can tell somebody who actually writes stories, our story locally.
And then another question for you. I wasn't 100% clear, how clearly is the EID on board with contributing to this?
When I spoke to the staff members, they were very interested. They obviously would like to play a role in the tour as well, because we'll be stopping at their sites, and they are the local knowledge experts on those sites, so they definitely want to play a role there. And then they showed interest, but they haven't had a chance yet to speak to their board or have any formal discussion about it. So one staff person obviously wouldn't commit to the shared funding of it.
Do we have a deadline on when this has to be decided by?
No.
Go ahead, Alan.
I think the reason, there isn't a deadline, but the reason that we wanted to bring it to council as soon as we could was just to beat anybody else to it, as there's only one platinum sponsor.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Woodruff.
I would just like to say that I think it's reasonable, and if $20,000 is the maximum that we would be contributing, I think it would be safe to do. Maybe, once we hear from the EID, that would change things, but at the most $20,000, I think it would be fair. Just as a comment.
Yeah. Councillor Jessica?
Well, and again, it'd be nice to see where the EID is at, but, if I were to make a friendly, change my amendment, or my motion, if I can do that, I would, the gold sponsorship gives you a lot of the benefits of the platinum. And again, we're not spending our money, and I think the 20,000 to guarantee the platinum, I don't think that's really justified for the benefits that we get from it, or potential benefits.
Councillor Idris?
Yeah, I want to show my support for the sponsorship. I think we talk about bringing the world to our doorsteps in terms of investment, in terms of the idea with the Alberta Advantage, the entrepreneurship program, and yes, it's a region, but we are still in the center of that region. And I think if there are investors or if there are people who are coming to this community, they may be settled here. So I do support this, and I think hopefully we will get the EID sponsorship partnership, and that will bring the number a little bit less than 20,000. But if the county is on it, I would like to be on it and go with this.
Go ahead, Councillor Wardrop.
I'd like to move that we take this to council committee with, after we hear from the EID, just hearing the opposition from other councillors. Could we have that information and have some reassurance and hear their commitment level from the EID before going forward?
I believe the county is talking about it on Thursday at their meeting. I don't know when the EID would be talking about it there, and there's a potential for maybe other sponsors there too, which would lower the cost then, right?
Yeah, through the chair to mayor and council, it has been also brought forward to the 3 smaller municipalities in the region as well, but their funding capacity is obviously less because they're so small. And I don't know if the EID, when they meet next, or when they'll have the information before their board for conversation.
Okay, Go ahead, Councillor Idris.
Considering Ellen's point around the fact that there is only one spot for the platinum sponsorship, I would be not voting, but suggesting that we give the vote on this with the numbers, because it says up to, and then leave it with the staff to actually even consider more talks with the EID and other possible partners.
Go ahead, Councillor Goodenough.
I'm going to take us back a little bit. This is going to be funded out of the council special project reserve. Can you explain that a little bit more for our viewing audience? And what normally would come out of this fund? And how much is in that fund? Maybe Shelley would have to answer that part. Thank you.
I'm going to defer to Shelley's extreme knowledge on this, as opposed to my limited guessing.
Okay. Through the chair to Councillor Goodenough. So the council, I don't know where the word special came from, but the councillor project reserve. At least it's adding things. The council projects reserve has been around for quite a while, and typically it's there for special initiatives that council feels important that weren't originally budgeted, or even that were proposed in the budget that they'd like to see and carry forward, particularly things that come up that maybe are aligned with the strategic focus areas that haven't got any other specific funding. So the reserve itself is funded from part of any annual surpluses. I can't remember the percentage, but there is a percentage that goes into the council projects from any annual surplus of at the end of the year. Currently, the balance of the council projects reserve is, I believe, just over 200,000. And some of the examples of things that have been funded recently are some of the murals that have taken place throughout the town. I know we've funded through there, and that's the only one I can think off the top of my head, but that's the nature of it.
Thank you very much.
It would be hopeful that the EID, there's no guarantees because we don't know what the boards think on that. But if we were in a three-way partnership, that would work out to about 13,300 per municipality, be the EID, the City of Brooks, and the County of Newell, and maybe possibly, and I look at another big one, maybe JBS, but I don't know, because we all benefit from irrigation in this area here. Without irrigation, we'd be pretty small, actually. So, and again, the hope is, going back to maybe what Councillor Idris says, up to 20,000, but it could be even as low as 10,000. Then, right? I mean, we don't know who all gets on board in this, but I mean, we can take it back. I'll leave it up to Alan. Do we take it back to council committee, or do we do the motion here today and kind of hope the EID comes through? Councillor, or not Councillor, but not yet.
Never.
Alan.
I guess if you want to delay it a bit and have it referred to a committee, there'd be a motion to refer the item to council committee. You would vote on that. If it passes, then it goes to council committee. If it doesn't pass, then you'd be back to voting on it as it is, or amendments.
Okay. So the original motion, what do we do with this one then, or do we just make an amendment to this, or?
Well, that one's on the table right now.
Okay, yeah.
If you want to refer it to council committee, you would have a motion to refer the item to council committee, and then it would be discussed there and then brought back. If the motion to refer it to council committee is defeated, this motion is back on the table, then you would vote on that, unless, of course, there were any amendments to it.
Okay. Are we fine with that one then? Read the motion? Yeah. No, he made the original motion, and then, yeah, Councillor Wardrop, yeah.
Okay. So then it would be moved by Councillor Wardrop that the item be referred to council committee.
Yeah, okay. So the motion as presented here, moved by Councillor Wardrop, that the item be referred to council committee. All those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, so it goes to council committee then, so, okay. Okay, moved by Councillor Nesbitt that council award the purchase of 2 fleet trucks to Martin Chrysler in the amount of $105,621, of which $14,811 will be funded by the Equipment Replacement Reserve, $38,000 from the Administration Carry Forward Reserve, and $52,810 from the Environmental Surplus Reserve. Don?
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. In 2022, staff recommend to council delay the purchase of the 2022 fleet vehicles until 23 due to the uncertainty of cost and delivery due to COVID. The 2022 budget for both vehicles was $76,000. The 2022 fleet plan originally had a vehicle to be purchased for the recreation department and one for the municipal enforcement. Upon further review of the fleet plan, it has been determined that the utilities department would benefit more from receiving a truck than the recreation department due to the underuse of the truck in recreation. So staff received pricing from 2 dealerships, Martin Chrysler and Harwood Ford. Davis was unable to provide a cost. The quotes are as follows for 2 pickups: $105,621 from Martin Chrysler, $114,170 from Harwood Ford. Martin Chrysler is the lowest quote. It's $29,621 over the budgeted amount. The overage would be funded by the Environmental Surplus Reserve. So therefore, staff is recommending council award the purchase of the 2 fleet trucks to Martin Chrysler in the amount of $105,621, of which $14,811 will be funded by the Equipment Replacement Reserve, $38,000 from the Administration Carry Forward Reserve, and $52,810 from the Environmental Surplus Reserve.
Any questions? Councillor Wardrop?
Thank you. Would it be reasonable to see if we could get a quote from somewhere else that would not put us over our budgeted amount? That would, even if that meant looking outside of the city?
I don't think we're going to find a truck that's going to come in $15,000 cheaper than anywhere in Brooks. Because that's what it would take per truck to come within budget. So that's quite a lot. That's almost like 30%. They'd
Okay.
have to be cheaper, which I don't think it's going to find one like that.
And the nice thing about doing it locally, it's serviced locally too, though.
Absolutely, yeah.
But
I just-
good question, though, yeah.
Had to ask.
Yep. Okay, any other questions on this? Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, moved by Councillor Prentice that bylaw number 2302, being a bylaw of the City of Brooks in the province of Alberta to provide for short-term borrowing deemed necessary for the purpose of financing the operating expenditures of the municipality be introduced and read a first time. Shelley.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. So the purpose of this bylaw is to authorize the city to borrow up to $2 million in 2023 for operating expenditures if required. These funds would bridge the gap from the beginning of the calendar year to when the property tax revenues are received. So this is just an annual bylaw we do just for precautionary reasons. Typically, the city has not made use of this bylaw, borrowing bylaw in recent years, but it is good practice to adopt it and to pass it annually, and so we like to do that each year. So the recommendation is to give bylaw 2302 3 readings and adopt it by council.
Okay, any questions? Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Counselor Wardrop that bylaw number 2302 be read a second time. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Counselor Idris that bylaw number 2302 be given 3 readings at this meeting. It has to be covered unanimously. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Counselor Nesbitt that bylaw number 2302 being a bylaw of the City of Brooks in the province of Alberta to provide for short-term borrowing deemed necessary for the purpose of financing the operating expenditures of the municipality be read a 3rd time and adopted. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, Sandra, any questions? One question.
One long question.
Okay.
I would like to get back to this living wage information, please, if you wouldn't mind. So the city, if I understand this correctly, will pay $1,500 to research information that they will use to come up with a living wage? Is this correct? Well, like, what am I missing here, please?
Go ahead, Lisa.
So we will pay $1,500 essentially to have access to their algorithm, which we put the data into, and then they spit out the living wage, if that makes sense. So they have hired a company years ago to come up with this formula that would calculate the living wage, that we don't have access to the formula essentially. So we would get the data, they plug it into the formula for us, and they give us the living wage. It's a very Coles Notes version of it.
For $1,500?
Yes.
And the city is going ahead with this? Is that correct?
Yeah, we
That
approved it.
got
Yeah, yeah,
passed?
it was approved unanimously, yeah.
Thank you.
It does give us a comparison on how, with data around the province there too. It's always nice to know comparisons and how well we're doing, on that, so.
It does, and I think one of the issues or the things that I'm thinking about is a lot of this information is available online, particularly with the province.
Yeah.
What's available online?
Amounts, wages, any kind of information we want. I understand about the algorithm, and that's not online, so that's important, but everything else is available.
Okay, good. Okay, moved by Councilor Wardrop that the meeting adjourn at 6:12 PM. All those in favor? Carried.
Sandra, what does it say our living wages in Brooks then?